Good afternoon. It's not morning for once. I have just flown back from Sweden. I flew very early this morning. I flew from Arlanda about 8:30 a.m. Just back in the UK. If I look a bit tired, that is why, but going straight back into the lives. Apologies for last week because whilst I was in an Airbnb in Stockholm, no problem at all. I could do my live streams, no problem. As soon as I arrived in a hotel, you know what hotel Wi-Fi is, so everything fell to pieces. So rather than trying to do extremely frustrating and broken lives, having to contend with hotel Wi-Fi, I just didn't instead. So the reason that I was actually in Stockholm is connected a little bit to our first article from today about Lovable. So I was over in Stockholm visiting Lovable. If you do not know Lovable, it's lovable.dev. They're one of the I'm going to say the best. I like them a lot. I was visiting them though, so I am biased, but I think the best vibe coding tool out there right now. Vibe coding, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, is the ability to talk to an AI a lot like ChatGPT, but instead of it just responding to you in text or in voice like ChatGPT does, it instead goes further and it helps you to build applications, build software, build web apps, etc. So it actually allows you to create rather than just discuss with an artificial intelligence. And there's a wide range of them out there. And this particular article is from TechCrunch, and Lovable's CEO, a guy called Anton, who I met on, would have been Friday night, went for dinner, a group of us who were part of the the Lovable Shipped competition. We went out for dinner with the Lovable team, including Anton. And Anton is saying here, I'm not too worried about the vibe coding competition. So this is a big question in vibe coding right now. Vibe coding is new. The term was only coined, I think, in February, maybe March. It's less than a year old, this idea of creating software from scratch using natural language. And if you have not tried it, just go to lovable.dev and give it a go. Like, literally stop watching me and go and do it now, because you do not need a credit card. You don't need to create an account or anything. You can just start creating and you can see immediately like, oh, wow, there's kind of magic. It's a bit like having a ChatGPT moment when you first use ChatGPT for the first time, but with creating software. So go and try it if you haven't already. But there's a big question in vibe coding of who's going to win, which I think is a tricky one, because there are tools like Lovable which make vibe coding very easy. Basically anybody can use lovable.dev and they'll get it immediately and they will understand like, oh, cool. And that allows you to immediately move on to, what can I build with this? What kind of stuff can I build for myself, for my business, for other people? And it really opens up your imagination very quickly. So Lovable is fantastic at that. At the kind of other end of the market though, there are other vibe coding tools like Cursor. Now Cursor's a lot more like a traditional software development tool, an IDE. I think that there is room for both of these kind of tools, as well as Claude Code, Codex, etc. There's a whole range of different things that are available. I think they are going to be applicable for different parts of the market, and Lovable in particular is for the people who haven't necessarily built anything with code today. And this is kind of what Anton is talking about in this article, basically saying, not too worried. He told TechCrunch that Lovable is simply focused on building the best product, enabled to do that by leveraging all different types of AI models, whereas providers need to stick to their own models, which is true. So if you're using Claude Code, for example, you're always going to be using Claude, whereas Lovable has the ability to switch between different models. This puts us in a better position than them, he continued, later adding that tapping into numerous foundation models gives its users unmatched capabilities, as well as giving the company the flexibility, I think that's really important, to grow rapidly. And he talks about the fact that if you tried vibe coding, let's say 6 months ago, a year ago, well, the term didn't exist a year ago, but there were pieces of software that did this. If you tried it a year ago, it wasn't very good, honestly. Like there were a lot of products out there that weren't very good. But it's kind of like having tried ChatGPT a couple of years ago. If you tried ChatGPT or GPT 3.5 when it first came out, a lot of people tried it and they're like, it's not that great. But what we've got now is leaps and bounds. It's 10, 100 times better. It's the same with vibe coding tools. So previously you would use primarily use vibe coding tools to build prototypes. You'd build out a minimum viability product, you'd be able to test an idea, but you wouldn't necessarily take it to production. Let me just find, there was a quote about this. I'm out of practice given the lives, so I'm not able to read and talk at the same time. Here we go. In the past, you could create a really great first draft using Lovable. This is Anton again. Now you can build a full product, and it's much more like working with a real developer, and I agree with this. The reason I was in Stockholm visiting Lovable... Oh, I have some swag. Some very basic swag, but I have lots of lovely stickers. I've not been paid to show any of this, but they did pay to take me to Stockholm. But what I saw over the last few days was the winners of the Lovable Shipped competition. So there were about 10 different people and 10 teams who had built over 6 weeks with Lovable Shipped and created some really, really cool things. And hearing their stories and how they had built from scratch these new projects and were now able to launch them as businesses, or to be able to build them into their existing business, was really, really, really just exciting to hear. There was one woman in particular, Isabella, who had no coding experience beforehand, hadn't written any code, didn't know what to do, had been quoted, I think, upwards of $100,000 to build a custom application connected to her teaching English business, and had even got into trouble with working with a developer who wasn't very honest and wasn't very good, and I think stole some money, and like, it was an absolute nightmare. And then she tried Lovable because she'd seen Brand Nat, my friend Nat Chopra-Sant, who does content on TikTok and Instagram. She'd seen Nat talking about Lovable Shipped and was like, I'll just try it, why not, let's give it a go. And I think she came 3rd place in the competition. So going from having no background in code, but an experience as an English teacher, being able to teach children how to learn English through direct teaching, being able to take all of her work that she'd worked on for the last couple of decades and then build that into an application from scratch in 6 weeks. That's why vibe coding is really, really exciting, because it allows people who would never normally have thought that they could put together a piece of software. It allows them to get into that world and to start to get access to the tools and the ability to create something from scratch, which until now has been the purview of only people who could code, who could program. So that's what really excites me about something like Lovable. And I mean, I can't talk too much about what they've got in store, but they have some good stuff coming. But yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about it, but watch the space, because there's some really, 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 really cool stuff. On that note, I'm going to start doing something as well. I'm still fleshing out the idea. So today is the 1st of September, so perfect. We're moving into September, October, November, December, so the last third of the year. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start building in public. I'm going to start building applications using Lovable, using Cursor, using whatever needs to be used, because sometimes there will be different tools for the job, but I'm going to start everything in Lovable. Not because they're sponsoring me, not because I went for dinner with their team, not because I've spent the last few days with them, but because I really like the tool. I think it's a really cool tool. So I'm going to start the ideas in Lovable, and then I'm going to build them on lives like this. I'll probably do it on a different live, but you'll be able to see my screen, you'll be able to see me work through the process and build every single day. What I'm going to do though, I need to make it more challenging, because it's all well and good if I spend 8 hours a day for the next, 30 days building an application, and I'm like, ta-da, you can do this too. That's not very helpful, because a lot of you have jobs, you have families, you have other commitments. So I have kind of, well, I won't call it free time, but I have more control over my time because I run my own business. So I could dedicate my time to just building applications, but I don't think that's useful, because that's not replicable. I want to show you how you can build with a tool like Lovable in a way that you can do as well. So it's not me working for 8 to 12 hours a day and building something, because you'll see that and you'll be like, oh, fine, cool, good for him, but so what? What I'm going to do instead is I'll try and limit myself to 1 hour a day, creating and building and taking something from an idea to launch within, I think, 30 days. That's what I'm going to go for, so 30 hours of work. And then I'm going to repeat that process and do it again and again and again. The first idea that I'm thinking of is something that I want myself. There's an idea of in digital marketing of a lead magnet. Basically, it's a piece of value that you give away in exchange for an email address, and you promote it on social media. You put links below your videos, for example, saying, hey, if you want this checklist, if you want this playbook, if you want this swipe file, if you want this mini video course, or whatever it is, go to this page, give me your email address, and I'll send it over to you. So that's what a lead magnet is. It's a unit of value, something that you exchange, something extremely valuable that you exchange with somebody in exchange for their email address, and then they enter your marketing funnel. You can send them emails, etc., etc. So it's a digital marketing concept. I'm thinking the first tool I'm going to build in this like mini personal hackathon is something that can, I give it a URL of one of my videos, or I give it a transcript of a video, or a website, one of my blog articles, for example, and it takes that information, pulls all that information in, and then works out what lead magnets would be useful to add to this particular piece of content. The reason I'm doing this is I'm in a group, a WhatsApp group with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and there's one guy who said by creating tailored custom-made lead magnets for each piece of content, they like increase their business by 100% in a year, because normally lead magnets on the bottom of content will be generics like, hey, you're learning French, download my vocabulary booster. But let's say somebody's watching a video about French grammar. That's not what they're thinking about right now. They're thinking about grammar, not thinking about vocabulary. So if I want to build a tool in Lovable over the next 30 days, which allows me to create a custom-made, tailored, valuable lead magnet for any piece of content that I put out there. So when I create something on YouTube, like a guide or a how-to, a tutorial, I'll be able to also automatically generate and create and format and style a lead magnet off the back of it as well. So that's the idea that I'm thinking of. I'm going to build it over the next couple of weeks, but I'll be building it live, and importantly, I won't be spending hours and hours and hours a day doing it, because that's not replicable. I want to show you how we can do this in an hour or so a day, and work within a framework and build something really valuable. So that's what I'm going to start doing. It will be another live show. So I'm going to do my daily news, and then I'm going to do a kind of a building session where I build, share my screen, answer questions, still kind of open chat. But that's what I'm thinking right now. So this is all, you can probably tell I'm working this out as I go along. It's been a wild week. You might have seen I did a video which I put out a few days ago. I think it's the last video on my feed. So in one day, I'd met with Lovable. So I'd met the CEO of Lovable, I'd met the team, I hung around at the offices, we had a chat with their head of growth, who gave us a presentation and talked to us, so that was amazing. I also went and got a coffee with Nate B. Jones. I'm sure if you're on TikTok in particular, you'll know who Nate B. Jones is. Big beard, super smart guy. I ran into him in the streets of Stockholm. He was not connected to the Lovable trip, he was not there on AI business, but I walked past him and I was like, I swear that's Nate. That must be Nate, but it's just he's not from Sweden. He's from America, so I just happened to see him. So I texted him later, and I was like, "Weird question. Am I going crazy? But was that you? Are you in Stockholm? And do you want to grab a coffee?" So we got a coffee as well. That same day, I also had OpenAI, creators of ChatGPT, reach out and ask if we want to do a collaboration, kind of work with them on their influence program. Yeah. And Anthropic also reached out, and I'm joining their Fire Ants program. Again, all the same day. And then just now, on the way back from the airport, I found Microsoft have contacted me. So all at the same time, for whatever reason, everything is coming together. So I've been a bit hyper, a bit manic for the last few days, because it's just very exciting. All of these cool companies that I would love to work with. So I'm gonna hop over to some questions. I'm gonna stop babbling and then continue with the news. As I said, this is a kind of a catch-up session. I'm doing the news, but I've also just got back from Stockholm. I've just returned to London, so I'm doing a lot of catch-up, and it took me about 45 minutes to get everything set up again. I hope my audio is working. God, I hope it is. Courtney says, congrats on your massive day the other day. Yeah, thank you, Courtney. That was Yeah, a weird day. A good day. Weird in a good way. It's good to see you all again on the live as well. I missed this. I enjoy just hopping on and being able to talk. Emin says, good afternoon, Carl. I missed the lives. Yes, me too. Hope you had a good time in Sweden. I did, and I just got back a couple of hours ago. So I flew very early this morning from Arlanda back here. And Stockholm is lovely. If you haven't visited, really, really, really nice place. I think so at the beginning of the week, it was beautiful sun and blue skies. And at the end of the week, it started to get dark and rainy and cold and windy. And all the Swedish people I was talking to were like, yep, here it comes. This is autumn coming. Because I was saying, oh, it's lovely. I could live here. And they said, come back in February and say that. Because I think they have 4 hours of sunlight, which is even worse than London. We don't have many, but 4 hours is... Whew. Shake says, what do you say about GPT-5, especially for brainstorming SaaS ideas? For brainstorming in particular, I tend to prefer Claude. That's subjective. I would suggest using different models and trying them out yourself. I just find Claude goes into more detail and it communicates better with me in the way that I like to brainstorm. That said, ChatGPT has better voice modes. So if you like to talk to your AI in order to get ideas out of your head, then GPT-5 might be better. Although some people don't like the new advanced voice mode, I'm fine with it personally. People don't like changes in general, I think. But it kind of depends on how you like to think. The one thing that I would find, this is the true of any model, you need to be very careful when you're brainstorming because they do tend to gas us up. They do tend to glaze us. So if you say, hey, here's my business idea, what do you think? They'll tend to say, yeah, it's great. You need to, well, it's a couple of ways. You can say, can you help me find holes and help me criticize this? But then it tends to go too hard and becomes too negative. So the best way to brainstorm and help you decide between business SaaS ideas in this particular case is to give it a few options. So if you have 4 or 5 options, outline them all in detail to the artificial intelligence and say, hey, I've got these 5 ideas. Can you help me come up with a rubric, some metrics for how I can decide which one to proceed with? And then you're going to work collaboratively with the AI. Doesn't matter if it's GPT, doesn't matter if it's Claude, really, to help you through the decision-making process. So it will first help you come up with, okay, these are the metrics we're going to analyze it from, like speed to deploy, how much money do you need, what's the revenue potential, etc. And then it will help you to structure an analysis, a comparative analysis. That's going to be the important part, because if you just give it one idea and say, what do you think, it will tend to say, great, love it. If you give it one idea and say, give me criticisms, it will give you criticisms. If you give it 5 ideas and say, what's the best, you're going to get a much, much better result, because it forces it to not just tell you what you want to hear, but to help you actually compare and contrast different ideas. But it doesn't really matter if it's GPT-5 or Claude. It's more about the technique you use when working with the AI. Back in Shape says, how much work have you done with Zapier agents, Kyle? Agents or automations? So I do automations in Zapier. I never really know how to say it. In Zapier, I do automations which have less, well, agency than an agentic system. If I wanted to build an agent, I'd use probably N8N is going to be a better bet. It has more powerful tooling for agentic flows, or you would custom build it yourself, which is a steeper learning curve, but it is still very doable because there's lots of libraries out there that can help you do it. I wouldn't personally use Zapier for this, but it really depends on what you're trying to do. So with this, the tool is less important than the actual workflow itself. So if you sit and you work with an artificial intelligence like Claude or ChatGPT and tell it, say, hey, look, this is the input, this is the process, this is the output, this is the kind of thing I'm trying to build. how can we do this? And you brainstorm the building process with them, and they'll be able to point you in the direction of the best tools for the jobs. Obviously, you're still going to have to test it out, check that against experts. So go and ask on Reddit, for example, or ask on a live. So if you come with a specific, I want these inputs, this process, and these outputs, and it needs to run independently, and it needs to learn, etc. Like if you come with a specification, working out what exactly you need to do, then you can go to people and they can give you a better idea. But if it's at this kind of level of, is Zapier good for agents? I would say it depends. It depends what you're trying to build, really. So work that out first. Outline it. Literally, back of a napkin is fine, back of an envelope. And then chat with ChatGPT, chat with Claude, get the basics of the project outlined with them, and then check it against someone with expertise who can potentially build it or point you in the right direction. That would be my process. In fact, this is what I do with vibe coding now. I will not jump straight into Lovable. I will not jump straight into Cursor. I will instead go to Claude and say, hey, this is what I want to build. It's going to be for these people. I'm going to deploy it on, it's going to be a web app, for example, and I want it to be lightweight and fast so that it loads quickly, and it should do such and such and such and such. And then the AI outside of my vibe coding tool can help me come up with a project plan. It can help me kind of decide the modules and what I should be building in what order, and then I take that into my tool and we build from there. But it's really useful to kind of do that planning and that thought process outside of the actual tool you're using to build, because the building tools tend to just say, they tend to just rush into the job. Basically, as soon as you give them any kind of idea, they're like, cool, and they run off and they go and do it, which doesn't allow you to have a more thoughtful process of planning and preparation. So definitely start there, then go over to Zapier or an N8N or whatever it is you want to build in. The day you wanted, so I'm missing. Leo says, with another unique collab offer the day you wanted. I don't know. I can't find the question you're asking, sorry. Make it a challenge and we can all participate, says Joe. This is in reference to, so I'm going to start building one, I'm not saying an app, one tool, one business. Building a business a month is a little bit crazy. I'm kind of tempted. It is crazy. Stupid, but I'm kind of tempted. So it might become 30 days to come up with an idea, build it, market it, and launch it. That's the mad way to do it. Or it could be an internal tool I use within my own business, and I have 30 days to build it and deploy it for myself. Could be that as well. I haven't quite decided. It depends how enthusiastic I get. But yeah, we could do it as a public thing. I just need to work out how to structure that so it's helpful for other people. I'll definitely be publishing everything that I do as I go along, writing about it, doing the lives as well. So you can work along with me, but if other people want to build at the same time, there's probably a way we can do that. I can probably set up a community, and you give me ideas. There's so much to do, but I think it would be really useful to build alongside people, and that's why Lovable Shipped was such a great idea, because it was 6 weeks and it was checkpoints each week. So you had to submit what it is you've built. You needed to engage in the community, and that gave you certain points, etc. And then they had a really cool system where participants would be shown 2 projects, and they get to play around with them, and they had to vote between them. So it created this like ranking system. I'm not sure what you call it, ELO? I think it's ELO. So you pit people against each other, and then it works out an overall aggregate score. And that's how they chose the winners at the end as well. But sorry, I'm not going to build that, but that's far too much. Don't tempt me. But the working on projects together is a really powerful way to do it, because building stuff and being an entrepreneur and building businesses is lonely. It's a very lonely thing to do as a solopreneur, because you're sitting at your computer and you're building something and you're hoping it's going to be good, and you don't really have anyone to talk to. So having a community around that is a nice way to do it for sure. So let me have a think about that. Oh, want to collab with the state ministry. Which state ministry is that? I mean, government is not really my field, but I could probably introduce you to people who work with governments, but it depends which government, of course. Let me talk to you about it. It's been 2 weeks state ministry. So yeah, I mean, I have a maybe send me over some details. Watching your live at a rave, says Elotrol user. That's a choice. I mean, I'm happy you are, but go and enjoy the rave. Holly's saying so lonely. Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately it is. So building a business and being a solopreneur is extremely lonely because you are sitting with your computer. And funnily enough, all of these AI tools actually make it more lonely because you can now do more by yourself, whereas previously you'd have to, have other people on your team. So it's very exciting on one hand because you can do so much by yourself, but that also means that the lonely journey of entrepreneurship is even more so because you can survive by yourself, which means you don't necessarily have people to talk to. So I would say if that is something you're find communities that can be online. I have a couple on WhatsApp in particular. That tends to be my platform of choice. So I have one that is all Instagram and TikTok creators. In fact, the host of it just joined this chat. Hey, Nate. And I have one which is kind of a more general entrepreneurship. So it's not AI related, but it's business related. And those are both very useful. Also try and find groups within your city. If you live in a city, there will be some. If you look on Meetup, if you look on Eventbrite, generally they'll have like a talk or something. I find the talks less useful and interesting. I say this as someone who gives the talk sometimes, but I find them less useful than just being able to go and meet other entrepreneurs, being able to talk to them and find out what they're doing. Because sometimes, especially if you come from a 9-to-5 job, especially if you don't have friends who own businesses, they won't necessarily understand the ups and downs of having your own business. And this goes both ways. It could be the downs. The downs are very down when you are an entrepreneur because you might not be making any money at all. So it makes it very difficult to live, especially live in a city like London, like me, because I'm silly. But then the highs are also very high, and you might in 1 month make more than you used to make in a whole year. So you might make a whole salary in a month, and it's really hard to talk to people who have jobs, people who are doing kind of normal non-entrepreneurial route. It's hard to talk about those ups and downs with them because it's just not something that they're they really experience. Neither is better, neither is worse. They're just different ways. But it means if you have gone into entrepreneurship and your school friends, your university friends, the friends you had from your kind of other life, your 9-to-5 life, they won't necessarily be able to understand what it is you're struggling with. So also try and find other entrepreneurs, other people who run businesses, and create a new group of friends or at least acquaintances there if you can. It's really, really important. Cool. So let me hop over to some actual news instead of just me blabbing. That's the problem when you haven't done a live for a few days. I kind of forget how. So, some big news, some good news. Microsoft are releasing their own AI model. Ooh. So Microsoft, for the last couple of years, they have had Copilot. But Copilot is basically ChatGPT. It is a kind of a wrapper, it's a skin around ChatGPT that somehow makes ChatGPT a lot worse. So if you've used Copilot, generally if you're in a job and you're in a Microsoft ecosystem, you'll know it's not very good. I shouldn't say this because they want to work with me on a collaboration, but it's I think they probably know this. It's a lot of people don't find it as good as just using plain vanilla ChatGPT, which is bizarre because it is ChatGPT under the surface, but then it has additional layers which make it Copilot. Unfortunately, these layers tend to add more guardrails. They tend to add more kind of systems instructions, and they get in the way of the stronger model underneath. So, really good news. They are entering the market with their own models. So they have two. They have one called, I don't know if we call it Microsoft AI, I haven't heard anyone say it out loud yet. So My One Preview and My Voice One. So we've got two models. So My Voice One, which is a highly expressive and natural speak generation model, cool, which is available in Copilot Daily and podcasts, and as a brand new Copilot experience for you to try out. Voice is the interface of the future for AI companions, and My Voice One delivers high fidelity, expressive audio across both single and multi-speaker scenarios. Cool. One of the most impressive I've used is Sesame or Hume. Hume's really interesting as well because it can analyze your emotions. So it's really fun to play with because you can yell at it angrily through the microphone and you can see it spiking anger. Really, really fun. It sounds like they are trying to make their natural language model, their natural speech model more expressive. Cool. I'll need to try it out and see what that means because they all say this. And then second, we've begun public testing of My One Preview on LM Arena, a popular platform for community model evaluation. This represents My's first foundation model trained end-to-end and offers a glimpse of the future offerings inside Copilot. Oh, okay. So they're building an OpenAI replacement for themselves. Interesting. We have big ambitions for where we go next. Not only will we pursue further advances here, but we believe that orchestrating a range of specialized models serving different user intents and use cases will unlock immense value. Blah, 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 blah. It goes on with the corporate spiel. But okay, so whether or not these models are good, and I've checked out LM Arena and no, they're not very. That's less important than the fact that they have entered the game. So Microsoft for the last couple of years, despite having large cash reserves, despite having the Azure cloud infrastructure and being able to deploy, they haven't moved into training their own model. Now they have. So we've got My One. So on LM Arena, as they have announced, it is currently, having to scroll down, there we go, 15th on LM Arena. So it comes under Gemini 2.5 Flash, it comes under Grok 3, under 4.1, Opus 4, 4.5, DeepSeek, etc. So it's okay. It's not blowing the doors off the market, but that is fine because it is their first model and it's a preview model. So the fact that they can even compete and they're even in this kind of top 20 is fantastic. I always say the same about Grok as well, because a lot of people like to, about to swear, they like to poop on Grok and say it's trash. People will either say it's the best model on earth or they'll say it's absolute trash. I think the interesting thing with Grok is that they managed to create a model in about 2 years by building data centers and just brute forcing their way into the market. I think that is really, really impressive. And Grok 4 is currently sitting at 8th. So it's below most of the GPT models and the Claude models, but they are still a player. They've got they've got a piece on the board basically. They're here now. This is what Microsoft are moving towards, and that's good in my opinion. It means more competition. It means more investment. It means the slightly odd setup that they have with OpenAI and using ChatGPT and then Copilot on top, that they can move away from that and they can actually enter the industry of AI in their own way, which is exciting to me. So regardless of the fact that their first model is sitting at 15th, I think that is less important than the fact that they have a model at all. So I'm interested. But yes, they're making their own AI. This is a Mashable article. Microsoft is making its own AI models to compete with OpenAI. Meet My. Does this mean Microsoft is easing off reliance on OpenAI models? I love this photo that Mashable's used. They've got Sam Altman standing at the side of the stage, being sidelined, literally sidelined in this photo. Very, very good. Well done, Mashable. So Microsoft has largely relied on OpenAI's models to power its AI products, Copilot, but now it's working on its own in-house models. On Thursday, Microsoft launched a speech generation model called My Voice One and started public testing for a foundation model called My One Preview. The company said My Voice One. None of them are good at naming. It's fine. We'll let them off. Can generate a minute of audio in under a second on a single GPU. Woo! Very good. My Voice One is already powering Microsoft's Copilot Daily and podcast features, which provide AI-generated audio news recaps and personalized podcast-style content, much like Google's Notebook LM, which is really good, and you should try if you haven't. And then My One Preview is currently only on LM Arena, so you can go and try it. So on LM Arena, for those who have never used it before, you're basically given two models, and you can say which you'll get two responses for a prompt, and you can say which gives a better response, and they use that to work out the ranking, which means you can go and try it out in their head-to-head comparisons. And then they're going to start rolling it out for certain text use cases in its Copilot chatbot for early user feedback. I don't see a timeline on that. I mean, good, fantastic. I think this is good news that Microsoft are entering the market. Hopefully they can make Copilot better. The problem though, and the reason why that might not be the case, is that the people making Copilot not very useful is Microsoft, because ChatGPT is sitting underneath. ChatGPT is good. It's a good model. Regardless of what you think of GPT-5 versus 4.0, etc., they are the best models, or amongst the top models. And then Microsoft layered something over the top, which made Copilot less useful. So additional safety and guardrails, etc. I understand why they're doing it. It's because their customers are enterprise and they need it to be secure and safe. But at the same time, they kind of lobotomized ChatGPT. So the question is, with something like My One, will those same instincts to make it safe and to make it non-challenging, will they hinder their models deployment because people won't want to use it because they want to use ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, etc. We will see. It's too early to tell. We don't even have it in our hands yet, but we shall see. Hey Thomas, I'm back in London. It's lovely. I came home and there's a giant storm. It's like, great, cool, awesome. Next one up is Musk's xAI sues an engineer for allegedly taking secrets to OpenAI. Now the whole court document, or the complaint, excuse me, can be found. So we definitely know this is going on. And the individual in question is Shui-Chen Li, who is an individual, the defendant, and he's been sued by xAI. It's a messy case. It's very, very messy. I'm not sure what this guy was thinking, if it's true. So, a couple of days ago, xAI has sued a former engineer at the company for allegedly stealing trade secrets related to its Grok chatbot and taking them to OpenAI. The worst place you could take them, because Musk and Sam Altman are already at each other. They already hate each other. So of all the places to take it, this is the one that's going to cause the most damage. Probably got paid the most for it too. So Musk's company said in the complaint filed on Thursday in California federal court that Shui-Chen Li stole confidential information related to cutting-edge AI technologies with features superior to those offered by ChatGPT. You just need to needle that a little bit. And then he started a new job at OpenAI earlier this month. So Lee, representatives of OpenAI, and attorneys and spokespersons for xAI did not immediately respond. Oh, sorry, OpenAI is not a defendant. I got ahead of myself. I thought OpenAI were defending him, which would be very interesting. The complaint underscores bitter rivalries between Musk's company and OpenAI and a fierce battle amongst tech companies for AI talent. And yes, Musk is also suing OpenAI and Sam Altman for allegedly deviating from its original mission to benefit humanity. So that law case is still going on, and OpenAI has countersued Musk in April for harassment. And Musk has filed another lawsuit against OpenAI and Apple on Monday for allegedly monopolizing the market for AI chatbots on Apple devices. This is the thing about the the App Store, and the fact that Grok doesn't show up. So it's awfully messy, and these two billionaires hate each other and will fight each other. And this guy Lee, he began working as an engineer at xAI last year, where he helped train and develop Grok, and then apparently he's taken trade secrets in July. He sold $7 million in xAI stock and took a job over at OpenAI, taking innovative AI secrets. So Whether or not it's true, I guess we'll find out as the court case goes ahead. But it's incredibly messy, and another reason for Elon Musk to lose sleep at night because of Sam Altman. I'm sure he'll spin it up into a conspiracy. No more questions. No problem at all. No, I don't think I'll do that one. I'm going to keep the live relatively short today because I want to work on this idea. For those of you who weren't on the live earlier, I'm going to start building in public. I'm going to build either a business and take it to revenue and make money with it, or maybe something a bit more reasonable, a tool. But I'm going to build over the next 30 days something in Lovable and deploy it and get it out into the market. Yeah, so I want to go ahead and work on that, and I'm going to be doing it all live. So I'll probably do another live session in a moment where I'm going to be working through the idea and coming up with what that is. But I'm going to close out this live so I can get it sent off to my editor, and then come back on in a little bit and do a second live. So you're going to be seeing an awful lot of me if you want to, where I'm going to start to build in public. Cool. Again, as I say every time, you can find everything on YouTube. We have just crossed 3,000 something subscribers, finally become monetized. I'm eligible to monetize my YouTube, which is a big milestone. That's really cool. And you can also find everything on sorry, there's people outside being noisy, on Instagram, TikTok. Instagram I need some help building because again I'm not very big there, but YouTube and Instagram are going to be the best places to find things. And you will find everything in a newsletter which comes out tomorrow, a text version of what we've covered, so the news stories, allowing you to get that information really quickly, along with links to the specific video, so you can skip to what exactly you want to hear about. And I will be back tomorrow morning and back into the swing of things, giving the lives every single day. Also, I'm running some free webinars on Tuesday and Thursday this week. If you follow the link in my bio, you'll get a link for that. They're going to be at 6 p.m. UK time, and they're going to be about how to sell workshops for a good amount of money, $1,000 plus per hour, to businesses. So teaching them about artificial intelligence and getting paid very well for doing so. So I'm going to be giving those workshops, those webinars, on Tuesday and Thursday, 6 p.m. and you can find the link in my bio to sign up. If you cannot make it, still sign up, and you can get a recording sent out afterwards. But I'd recommend coming because it is going to be live. It's not just it's not an AI avatar. It's not just a recording. So hopefully I will see you there. And fantastic, back in the swing of it. Doesn't feel like it, but I am. Great, thank you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, and maybe in an hour or so if I do this second stream. Cheers, guys.